All right, Hans Stone here with Breadman. How you feeling tonight, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing cool, man. I'm doing cool. I don't think the fans are too happy though. That was a tough weekend. It was a tough weekend. What was your thoughts on? Let me get your overall thoughts on, it comes like the lackluster performances from almost everybody besides, Inoue and Rafael Espinosa. What were your thoughts on everything, man?
Well, the Fatal Fury card, it was an innovative idea, and it looked like it was a stacked card on paper, but it seemed like that the crowd was kind of like not really into it. They was like walking around and talking. He really wasn't engaged. And energy is transferable. And when you got like a real live crowd, it kind of like um galvanizes the fighters. It makes them like go forward and do different things. And believe it or not, the fighters can feel when people are engaged. And if everybody's walking around talking and doing stuff, they you ever see like a big fight break out in the crowd and then the fighters kind of like stop because it's distracting.
A little
You know what I
bit.
mean? You ever be in the gym and then it's real quiet and then somebody comes in talking or hitting the speed bag while guys are just sparring, it's distracting. So I can imagine being in that crowd where people are like talking and having conversations and guys are trying to fight. I know they're supposed to lock in, but the crowd just didn't seem engaged. I love the idea. It was very innovative, but they just didn't have a good crowd. It was just moving around and it was more like a social media gathering. And, and that was the event more so than the fighters actually fighting and people spectating a fight. So, you live and you learn. The promoters are going to have to figure out what kind of crowd to put in front of these people. What kind of crowd to have for the fighters, but it just didn't seem like a fight crowd. Um, the fights, they were what they were. I thought Teofimo did his thing. I thought that was going to be a tough fight for him, and he's clutch, man. Whenever whenever it seemed like he got a clutch fight, I mean a hard fight, he just come through, and just and shine. It's kind of weird. He'll have another guy, maybe not as good as Barbosa, and give him a tougher fight. But if he get a guy like Barbosa or Josh Taylor or Loma, he be like on his A+ game. He's an interesting dude, very talented fighter. Um, I thought
Well,
Jose Luis.
but before you go on to the other guys, I wanted to touch on Tio a little bit, man, because I don't really like interjecting my opinion on stuff. But is it crazy for me to be like, yo, I think Tio, I'm not saying he'll beat Boots. Please. Not saying he'll beat him. But I think he'll give Boots his toughest fight because when the it's like you just said, when the stacks are when the chips are stacked against him, you put a great fighter in front of him, he's going to perform amazingly. Barboza, Josh Taylor was the guy at 140. Lomachenko was, pretty much to everybody the best fighter in the world at the time. So is it absurd for me to be like, yo, let me get T.O. versus Jaron Ennis, man?
It's not absurd. I mean, it's a great fight. Um, and the thing about T.O., he will be the underdog. He will be moving up in weight, so he will have less to lose. So his performance value may get overrated or over exaggerated by people if he does well. So no, you're not crazy. I don't pick him to beat Boots. I think Boots' jab and his length will be too much for him, but it would definitely be Boots's most accomplished opponent. T.O. has been what Ring Magazine champion in two divisions.
Yep.
It would be his most accomplished opponent and the most talented opponent up until this point in his career as a pro.
Do you agree with me from the standpoint of even at 147, I still think T.O. would be, I think T.O. is tougher than Brian Norman. No respect to him. I think Brian Norman is a really good fighter. I think he'll be better than Brian Norman. I think he'll be better than Barrios. And, anybody else you could think at 147. Am I tripping with that, or what do you think?
No, you're not tripping. That's your opinion. Um, I would say this: Boots has done more than Brian Norman. I
Yep.
mean, Theo has done more. Theo has been world champion in two weight divisions, been on a pound for pound list. So he's done more than Brian Norman, but doing more and having a deeper resume than somebody and actually being tougher is two different things. I don't know. I do think that he's tougher than the other champions at 147, though.